Hi and welcome to Best in Tesla. If you know what to look for, we are seeing all the puzzles coming together for Tesla's full self-driving coming to Europe. And not just the supervised, but also unsupervised. I know many things this will take many years, but the groundwork has already been done. And there is a fast lane in the European rulebook, and the European Commission has called to action, because this is not just about full self-driving cars. They know it's about the survival of the European automotive industry.
Because the goal is very simple. We have to get autonomous vehicles on Europe's roads faster.
So let's check it all out and let's dive right in. So getting autonomous tech approved in Europe isn't a straight road. And here's why. So even though we have just heard that the European Commission, or EC, screamed that we need autonomous vehicles on European roads faster, the EC doesn't make laws itself. It's the spark plug, but drafting proposals like those for full self-driving cars. But to become laws, those plans hits a two-stop checkpoint: the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union. The Parliament, elected by the EU citizens, debates and tweaks from people's angles, so think safety and jobs. Where the Council is made up of member states' ministers, guards national interest, hashing out deals that can differ country to country. The EC pitches, mediate and adjust, but both bodies have to agree, often after months or years of back and forth. So that is where the delegate acts come into place. These are pre-approved powers that the European Commission gets from existing laws, letting it issue technical rules like for Tesla's full self-driving without the full legislative grind. Parliament and Council just get a quick voting window, usually 2 to 3 months, not a full debate. So delegated acts are like the fast lane. Narrow scope, less haggling, and approval can drop from years to months, as I will also show in a second. But big changes will crawl through the 27 nations' priorities and the 705 parliamentarians. It's democracy, slow and messy, unless you got the right tools like delegated acts. They are the shortcuts. So thanks to the already laid groundwork and legislations, we do have a fast lane. And with the EC also calling to action to get this done faster will also help this go through at a quicker pace. Also because there is more at stake than just full self-driving tech, but I will get back to that in a minute. So autonomous driving is starting to get some momentum here in Europe, and the wheels are turning faster thanks to the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, or the UNECE, and the European Commission, of course. But the UNECE has been laying the groundwork for years through its World Forum for Vehicle Regulations with VP29 and its subgroup GRVA, short for Working Party of Automated and Connected Vehicles. They tuned out key standards like the UN Regulation number 157 for lane keeping systems, and more recently the Driver Control Assist System Regulations, or DCAS, rolled out in 2024 and live since January of this year. DCAS is the game changer for Tesla because it lets cars like Tesla's with full self-driving supervised handle steering and lane changes without vehicle nag while keeping drivers in the loop. So everything is set up and ready for Tesla's supervised full self-driving, only waiting approval. Meanwhile, the European Commission is pushing hard to bring this tech to European roads, building on the type approval framework from 2018, Regulations 2018-858. They've integrated UNEC standards into EU law, like the 2022 Delegate Act Regulations 2022-1426, which greenlit full autonomous system in just 7 months flat. So that is what I mean when I'm saying there is a fast lane, because that history shows they can move quickly when the framework is there. Now, with the strategic dialogue on automotive launched in January of this year, the European Commission is doubling down, aiming to fast-track autonomous vehicles, think robotaxis and full self-driving, across a single market. For Tesla's full self-driving supervised, the stars has aligned. It fits under the DCAS and existing EU rules. No new laws are needed. Tesla is already pitching it, with the Netherlands eyeing a May 2025 review for the EU-wide approval. If the data holds up, from billions of safe miles driven in the US, it could be on European streets late 2025 or early 2026. Looking ahead, the UNEC is already drafting a broader rule for level 4 robotaxis, still unnamed, but it is in the works, which the EC might snap up next. It's a 1-2 punch, global standard meeting EU ambitions, all built on years of paving the way with new regulations. So I do believe we will see Tesla's full self-driving supervised on European streets this year. And as we do have the UN working on a draft for the robotaxis, that is expected to be ready by the end of this year as well. So with the push we are seeing right now from the EC to push for autonomous tech, I don't think we will see any objections against that, and we'll probably just send that to the European Parliament for approval, and with a 6-month objection period, we might even have the framework ready in Europe for robotaxis by mid-2026. So, in theory, we could have Teslas unsupervised coming to Europe by the end of 2026 or 2027 at the latest. I don't think many people saw this coming, but we have to remember we are not starting from scratch in Europe. We do have the framework with regulations 2018-858 plus the DCAS ready, and that is kind of making the backbone for the next phase, and the UNECE is already working on it, and the European Commission will probably not have any objections to it, as they have been out saying that we need full self-driving tech on the street of Europe faster. So things are speeding up here in Europe. So if we can have autonomous vehicles on the street in about, let's say, 2 years, even though the US might have them already in June of this year, that would still be very fast for European standards. Full self-driving unsupervised in 2 years, meaning Cybercab could be hitting the street in Europe in 2 years, in 2027, that would be amazing. Fingers crossed. Because, like I said, this is not just about full self-driving tech and regulations anymore, because Europe's car giants are at a crossroad, and the European Commission is waving the red flag, saying bluntly, we are falling behind in full self-driving tech and the clock is ticking. The European Commission's warning is stark. Why Tesla is ranking up billions of autonomous miles in the US and now also in China, and we have Chinese EV makers are also rolling out smart car with autonomous tech. Well, Europe automakers like Volkswagen, BMW and Stellantis and everybody else have been slow to shift gears because they are struggling just to make EVs and software-defined vehicles. They are losing money on EVs, and their software is not up to par with the likes of Tesla and the Chinese. But put on top of all of that, they have basically all given up on full self-driving cars. Mercedes has been out saying they will not follow Tesla in the footsteps of robotaxis. Ford and Volkswagen joint venture Argo AI for autonomous vehicle has been shut down. So now the European Commission is seeing that not only are they falling behind in EVs and software-defined vehicles, but the big blow will be when they fall behind in autonomous vehicles, as that will change everything. The European Commission says we are losing the edge and our industry, and that will hurt very badly if that should be the case, as it is pumping 7% into the EU's GDP and employing about 14 million people. And all of that is at risk of being lapped by global rivals like Tesla, who is betting big on autonomy. Tesla's full self-driving supervised, ready for Europe by late 2025, in my opinion, only pending approval, versus Europe's auto industry that has basically given up on making it work, as they know nothing about software, let alone neural network and AI training. So the EU Commission Strategic Dialogue launched here in January calls it out. We are not just behind on batteries and software. We are trailing in the race of redefining mobility. Why the urgency now? Because the stakes are sky high. If full self-driving tech doesn't hit European roads faster, our automaker could miss the boat entirely, losing market share, jobs, relevance as cheaper, smarter Chinese EVs and Tesla's robotaxi will flood the streets. The European Commission's cry is clear. Speed up approval, lean on the UNECE's DCAS rules, and get autonomous cars rolling, or watch European legacy automakers stall out for good. This isn't just about tech, it's about survival. So, like I have been saying for years, if we suddenly have the US and China showing off full self-driving cars, Europe will have to react. They can't just sit behind their red tape and watch their automotive industry fall apart and have less safe vehicles on the road than in the US and China. Of course, they will act. And the rules for robotaxis might not be ready yet, but like I've said, the draft is already being worked on by the UNECE. So even though all of this is not to try to benefit Tesla, it will benefit Tesla because they will get regulations in place to make sure they are ready to move when the European automakers have full self-driving cars ready. But that will be a while, as the European Commission President von der Leyen said. So we have to act big and we have to get big. Scale on this topic matters more than ever before. This is why we have agreed we will set up and support an industry alliance. Companies will be able to pool resources. They will develop shared software, chips, and autonomous driving technology. On our side, we will refine the testing and deployment rules. We will also help launch large-scale pilots for autonomous driving. Because the goal is very simple, we have to get autonomous vehicles on Europe's roads faster. So the testing and rules will help Tesla to get unsupervised and cybercabs on the street of Europe. But for the European Commission to think that because they make some alliance and pool resources and share software, chips and autonomous driving tech, they will somehow simply be able to create full self-driving cars. Well, that will take a bit longer in my opinion, so I'm not so optimistic about that part of the whole plan. But no matter what, this will benefit Tesla greatly, that all of this is happening now and that the EU is actually, for once, working with a sense of urgency. And because the life of the European automakers is relying on it, I don't think we will see many objections against these rules, which means they will come into play faster. So my bet, as of now, is that we will see full self-driving supervised approved this year in Europe, and the framework and regulations for the unsupervised will be in place by the end of 2026. So we could see unsupervised full self-driving Teslas and the cybercabs on the street of Europe in 2027. If markets, of course, stay stable and we don't have trade wars or any other disaster coming our way. But what are your thoughts? Am I being too optimistic again on the behalf of the European Commission and the Parliament? Or do you also think that this will hit the fast lane because this is about so much more than just full self-driving tech? It's about saving 14 million jobs in Europe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.